The night was cold, and the alien sky burned with strange colors. Shadows stretched across broken stone towers, ruins of a city that once lived. The wind carried dust and the sound of far screams. The alien princess walked alone through the dark path, her silver eyes searching, her heart heavy. She was not safe. Hunters were after her, not men, not beasts, but machines with red glowing eyes. They wanted her blood. They wanted her secret, every step she took. The sound of metal claws echoed behind her, but she kept walking because she was the last of her kind. Suddenly she stopped, her nose twitched, her heart jumped. In the cold air, through all the dust and smoke, she smelled something. It was not alien, it was not machine, it was not beast, it was something old, something strange, something familiar. The princess froze. Her people spoke of it only in whispers. A scent from the stars, a scent from another world. It was human. Her silver eyes searched the ruins. She felt danger on one side, but a mystery on the other. She could hear the hunters closing in, their steps heavy, their voices sharp. But her mind stayed on that smell. Why now in this broken city? Why here, in the last place she could hide? The ground shook. A broken wall fell behind her. The hunters were close. She ran into the shadows, her long cloak brushing the stone. Every step echoed, every breath was fire. But the smell did not leave her. It grew stronger, like a call. Like a hidden voice, somewhere in the ruins, in the cracks of the dark towers. Someone was watching, a man. He was not from her world. He was weak, his clothes torn, his skin marked by battle she did not know. But his eyes burned with life. He saw her move through the dust, shining like a ghost, and he stayed quiet, for now. The princess felt him near. She could not see him, but her heart told her he was there. The hunters closed in, their red eyes flashing like fire in the fog. She had no choice. If the human was real, if he was not a dream, then maybe he was her only chance. Her mind raced. What if he was enemy? What if he was a spy sent to trick her? But her nose did not lie. The smell of human was strong, and with it came something she had not felt in years. Hope. The hunters screamed, their claws cutting the stone. The princess ran faster, her cloak flying behind her. She turned a corner, only to face a wall of fire. The machines had trapped her. Her eyes flashed with fear, and then she felt it again. Close, very close. The human was here, hidden in the shadows, watching, waiting, deciding. The princess lifted her chin, her silver eyes sharp. She whispered to herself, "If you are real, show me." The hunters stepped forward, their metal hands reaching, but in the silence, in the darkness, a spark came, a flame lit up in the ruins, and the human moved. He was only one man, but his fire cut the night. The princess gasped. For the first time, she saw him, tired, broken, but alive. The smell was clear now, human and strong. The hunters turned toward him, metal jaws opening, and the princess knew. This was no ghost, no dream. This was the beginning of something greater. The sky cracked with thunder. The city shook, and in the middle of ruins, the alien princess and the human stranger faced the same enemy. The night was no longer silent. It was the start of a story that would change both their worlds. Asterisk, the ruins were silent again, but the human did not move. He pressed his back against the broken wall, his breath slow, his heart heavy. The fire he lit was small, only enough to scare the machines for a moment. But he knew they would return. They always returned. His eyes were sharp, tired but watching. For weeks he had lived here, hiding in the shadows. The world was not his. The sky was strange, the air heavy. But he had learned one thing, to survive. And now he was not alone. He had seen her, the alien princess. Her silver eyes cut through the dust, her cloak like flowing night. She was not like the hunters, not like the machines. She was alive, flesh and blood, and yet she carried something royal in her steps, something untouchable. The human's hands shook, not from fear but from memory. He remembered the battles, the fire, the screams of his own world. He remembered how he crossed the void, searching for answers, And now here, in this dead city, he found her. But who was she to him? Why did her presence feel like a story already written? The princess, on the other side of the ruins, felt him. She could not see him yet, but the scent was clear. Her heart pulled her forward, but her mind warned her to stop. Was this man truly a savior, or was he another danger? The machines did not wait for answers. Their metal feet struck the ground again, closer, sharper, hungrier. The human closed his eyes. He could leave. He could hide deeper into the ruins and let the princess fall. It would be easy. Survival always meant walking alone. But then he heard her voice, soft yet strong, carried by the wind. "Show me," she had whispered. He had heard it, every word. And something in his chest refused to stay silent. The machines entered the square. Their eyes glowed red, their claws raised. The princess stood in the middle, her back against the wall, her face calm but her hands trembling. The human stepped out, slow but steady, the glow of fire in his hand, his shadow stretching across the stone. The machines turned, sensing him, their jaws clicking like weapons. The princess gasped, her eyes locking on him. A human, not legend, not dream, but real. She had seen old texts, old carvings of his kind. Her people once spoke of humans with fear and respect. But to see one here, in flesh, was beyond belief. The human did not speak. Words were not needed. Instead, he raised his fire and threw it. The flames spread across the broken floor, a barrier between them and the machines. The hunters stepped back, hissing, their claws scraping the stone. The human's eyes never left the princess. He saw fear in her, but also strength. And she saw in him not power, but defiance. For a moment, the world was still. Two strangers from different stars, facing the same death. The machines growled, regrouping, preparing for another strike. The princess took a step toward him, her cloak brushing the firelight. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice shaking. The human said nothing, but in his silence, his eyes spoke. He was not enemy, not hunter. He was something else. And in that moment, both of them understood. Their paths had crossed for a reason. The machines leapt, the fire cracked, and the story of the stranger began. The fire burned low, its light weak but alive. Ash floated through the night air, carried by the wind like falling stars. On one side stood the princess, silver eyes sharp and glowing in the dark. On the other stood the human, his body marked by scars, his hands tight on a broken weapon. For a long moment, they did not move. The hunters waited in the shadows, their red eyes watching, their claws scraping stone. But between the two figures, there was a silence stronger than war. The princess studied him carefully. He was tall, not like her people, his face rough, his clothes torn, and yet, he was alive, alive in a place where nothing else human should be. The human felt her gaze. He had seen enemies, monsters, machines, and death, but never eyes like hers. Eyes that held both fire and sorrow. He did not speak. Words seemed too heavy. Instead, he only lifted his hand slowly, showing he carried no weapon ready to strike. The princess narrowed her eyes. Her people taught her to never trust, especially not the unknown. But the scent was true. The air around him carried something pure, something her blood remembered. She stepped closer, her cloak brushing the stone floor. The hunters hissed, but did not strike. They too seemed confused, as if even machines could sense the weight of this moment. The princess spoke first, her voice soft but clear. "You are human." The human's chest rose and fell. He said nothing, only nodded once. Her breath caught. She had never seen a human. Not with her own eyes. Legends told of them. Warriors from the stars, destroyers and saviors both. But this man looked nothing like the stories. He was broken, tired, and yet still standing. The ground shook. The hunters moved, their claws clashing. The princess raised her hand, summoning a faint light from a stone at her wrist. The glow pushed the machines back for a moment. She turned to the man, her eyes hard. "Why are you here?" she demanded. The human looked at her, his face unreadable. Finally, his voice came. low and rough. "I survived," he said, only 2 words. Yet they struck her deeper than any story. The princess felt a shiver. This man was not here for power, not here for conquest. He was here because he endured, because he refused to fall, and something inside her whispered, maybe that was the reason her world still had hope. The hunters roared, no longer patient. Their bodies moved forward, steel and fire. The human turned, his hands steady, his eyes sharp. The princess lifted her wrist stone higher, the glow spreading. For the first time, they stood side by side, strangers from 2 worlds, and yet together against the same enemy. The fight was short, but fierce. The human moved with speed, striking with fire and stone. The princess used her light, sharp and blinding. The machines fell back, sparks flying, metal breaking. When the last one crashed into the ruins, silence returned. The princess breathed hard, sweat on her brow. The human stood still, his chest rising, his weapon broken, but his eyes alive. For a long moment, they only looked at each other. Not enemies, not yet allies, but something in between. The princess lowered her hand, the light fading. "You saved me," she whispered. The human looked at her, his face cold. "No," he said. "I saved myself." Yet deep in his eyes, she saw it. He had chosen not to leave her. He had chosen to fight when he could have hidden. And in that choice, she saw something greater. The scent was no lie. This human was more than a stranger. He was a sign, a warning, maybe even a destiny. The ruins stood silent once more. But inside, the world had changed. The princess and the human had met, and nothing would ever be the same. Asterisk the chase, the ruins did not stay quiet for long. From the shadows, the hunters rose again, their broken metal bodies twisting, their red eyes burning. They were damaged, but not destroyed. Machines of death did not stop, not until the target was gone. The princess felt the ground shake as the claws struck stone. Her silver eyes flashed, her heart raced. She turned to the human, who stood ready though his weapon was broken. "We cannot fight them all," she whispered. The human nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we run," he said. They moved fast, the princess leading through narrow streets of shattered towers. The human close behind, his breath sharp, his eyes scanning every shadow. The hunters gave chase, their steps louder, closer, endless. The air was filled with the sound of metal tearing stone. Every corner they turned, the hunters followed. Every path they took, the hunters blocked. But the princess knew the ruins better than the machines. This was once her city, her people's home. Now it was a grave. But still it held secrets. She pulled the human into a hidden passage. Narrow and dark, the walls hummed with old energy. The hunters screamed outside, their claws striking the stone. But they could not fit through, not yet. The human pressed his back to the wall, catching his breath. His eyes studied the glowing lines carved into the stone, strange symbols, old, pulsing faintly with light. "What is this place?" he asked. The princess touched the wall gently, her hand shaking. "It was a sanctuary," she said. "My people built it long before the machines now." "It is only dust," the human frowned, his fingers brushing the symbols. The glow grew brighter at his touch. The princess gasped, stepping back. "That should not happen," she whispered. The human looked at her, confused. But before answers could come, the sound of claws returned. The hunters had found another way in. The princess grabbed his arm, pulling him deeper into the tunnels. They ran through twisting halls, their steps echoing behind them. The hunters crawled through cracks and broken doors. Unstoppable, the tunnels lit with strange lights as they passed, as if the walls themselves remembered the human's touch. The princess felt fear, but also wonder. Why did the ruins respond to him? What was he to this place? The human did not notice. His mind focused only on survival. Every turn was a choice, every breath a struggle. The hunters were fast, but so was he. His body was tired, but his will was iron. And the princess saw it clearly now. This man was more than broken flesh. He was endurance given form. The tunnels opened into a wide chamber. At its center stood a machine, old and silent, covered in dust. It was not like the hunters, it was something older. Something powerful. The princess froze, her eyes wide. This was a guardian, she whispered. Once it protected my people, but it has slept for centuries. The human stepped closer, his hand brushing the metal surface. The machine hummed, lights flickered. The princess gasped again. It answers to you, she said, her voice a mix of fear and awe. The hunters entered the chamber, their red eyes cutting through the dark. The princess raised her stone of light, but she knew it was weak. The human turned, his hand still on the old guardian. And then, with a deep sound, the machine awoke. Lights flared, gears turned, the hunters stopped, their bodies shaking for the first time. The hunters stepped back. The princess stared at the human. He stood with fire in his eyes, the old machine glowing behind him. In that moment, he was not just a stranger. He was something more, a force her world had waited for. Even if he did not know it, the hunters roared, refusing to flee. The chase was not over, it had only just begun. The guardian machine stood tall, its lights dim but alive. The hunters kept their distance, their red eyes glowing from the dark. The chamber hummed with ancient power, but only one thing kept it awake, the human's touch. The princess stared at him, her silver eyes wide. He looked ordinary, broken, tired. Yet the walls answered to him, the machine moved for him. This could not be chance. She stepped closer, her cloak brushing the stone floor. Her voice was soft, but sharp with demand. Who are you? The human turned, his face shadowed. For a long time he said nothing. Then his voice came, low and rough. I am no one. The princess frowned, anger flashing in her eyes. No one does not wake the guardians. No one does not carry the scent of my people. The human's jaw tightened. He wanted to walk away, wanted to stay silent, but the princess's eyes forced the truth from him. Finally, he spoke. I came here through fire, he said. My world was lost to war. Machines burned everything. I followed a signal. It called me across the stars. It brought me here. The princess's heart pounded. Her father once spoke of such a signal, a beacon left long ago by her ancestors. It carried the mark of her bloodline. It was meant to call for help, but no help ever came, until now. Her voice trembled. You followed the royal signal. The human looked at her, confused. I followed only hope, he said. The princess touched her wrist stone. It glowed faintly, pulsing with the same rhythm as the lights on the guardian. Her breath caught. The rhythm was the same as his. As if their very blood beat in one pattern, she whispered, almost to herself. You are bound to us. The human frowned. I am bound to nothing, he said sharply. I lost everything. I came here because there was nothing left. Not destiny, not prophecy, only survival. But the princess was not blind. She saw how the ruins lit under his hand. She smelled the truth in his blood. Legends spoke of a savior not born of her world, a savior who would rise from the ashes of another. She whispered the words she once heard as a child. The stranger will come, carrying the scent of fire, and with him, our world will breathe again. The human looked at her, his face hard. I am no savior, he said. But in his eyes, she saw the lie. He did not believe in himself, yet fate believed in him. The chamber shook, the hunters roared. They were no longer waiting. Their claws smashed against the walls. The sound like thunder. The guardian hummed, ready but weak. The princess turned back to the human, her voice urgent. Whether you believe or not, they believe. The machines fear you. That is why they hunt me harder. Because they know if we stand together, they fall. The human clenched his fists. His breath was heavy, his eyes filled with fire. He wanted to deny it, wanted to say no, but deep inside, he felt it too. The signal had brought him here for a reason. Not chance, not accident, but choice. The hunters smashed through the doorway. Sparks flying. The princess raised her stone. Light bursting from it. The human stood beside her, broken weapon in hand, for the first time. Not running, not hiding, but standing ready. The secret had been spoken, and nothing could undo it. The chamber blazed with light. The guardian's voice echoed like thunder. And the princess whispered, "You are not my enemy. You are my answer." Asterisk. The chamber glowed with fading light. The hunters lay broken, their bodies sparking. The guardian stood silent once more, its power drained. The princess lowered her wrist stone. Her chest rising fast, the human leaned against the wall. His face pale, but his eyes sharp. For the first time there was calm. The sound of claws was gone. Only their breaths filled the ruins. The princess looked at him, her voice soft. "You should not be alive," she said. The human gave a small, tired smile. Many said that before. She almost laughed. But the weight of danger pressed down again. The hunters would return. They always returned, still for a brief moment. The princess felt something she had not felt in years. Not just safety, but trust. They moved together through the tunnels. The princess leading, the human close behind. Each step echoed like a promise. The ruins lit faintly as they passed. The signal was alive in him. And though he denied it, she could not. Every heartbeat told her the truth. This man was tied to her world. But fate is not kind, and hope is never safe. As they entered a wide hall, torches burned, not machine light, but firelight. The princess froze. Dozens of figures stood in the shadows. Her people, survivors. At first her heart leapt. She thought she had found her kin. But the faces that stepped into the light carried no joy, only fear, only anger. The leader, a tall warrior with bronze armor, raised his spear. "Princess," he said, his voice hard, "you should not be here." The princess stepped forward, her eyes bright. "My people still live," she whispered. But the warrior's eyes slid past her and landed on the human. Murmurs rose, voices sharp. "A human," they hissed. "Destroyer cursed. Enemy." The princess lifted her hand, her voice clear. "He is not enemy. He saved me." But the warrior's jaw was iron. "No, princess, he brings death. The prophecy is twisted. The machines follow him. He will lead them to us all." The human said nothing. His eyes burned, but his lips stayed closed. He had heard such words before. He knew the look of blame. He carried it everywhere he went. The princess stepped closer to her people. "You do not understand. He carries the signal. The guardians wake for him." But her words fell heavy. No one listened. Fear ruled stronger than truth. The warrior raised his hand. Chains glimmered in the torchlight. Before she could move, the princess was seized. Her arms bound, her cloak torn. She cried out, her voice sharp, "No! He is not the enemy." But her people pulled her back. Her silver eyes met the human's, wide with fear and betrayal. The human stepped forward, his fists clenched, but spears pointed at his chest. Dozens of warriors, strong and ready. He could kill some, maybe many, but not all. Not with his body already broken. Not with her chained. The princess fought, her voice desperate. "Do not touch him. He is our only chance." The warrior shook his head, his face like stone. "No, princess, he is our doom. We will deliver you to the throne again." But the human dies in the dark. The human stood still. His eyes locked on hers. He saw the terror in her face, the chains on her hands, and for the first time, she saw his pain not as scars, but as fire, not as weakness, but as promise. The warriors dragged her away. Her voice echoed in the hall. "You will come for me," she whispered, her eyes never leaving his. "You must." The human's fists tightened. He did not shout, did not beg. He only stood, silent as stone. But in his silence, there was a vow the machines, the warriors, the world itself would one day fear. The torches burned, the chains rattled, and the princess was taken into the dark, leaving the human alone, but not broken, never broken. The hall was silent after they dragged her away. The torches burned low, the smell of chains still heavy in the air. The human stood alone among the ruins, his fists tight, his chest heavy. He had nothing, no weapon, no allies, no hope. And yet he refused to move. He had been left behind before. He had lost everything before. But this was different. This time someone had looked at him. Not with hate, not with fear, but with belief. The princess had seen fire in him, and he would not let that fire die. The sound of claws echoed from the tunnels. The hunters had returned. The warriors thought they had trapped the human, but in truth, they had trapped themselves. He did not fear the machines anymore. He had lived with fear too long. Now only rage lived inside him. He searched the ruins. His hands steady. Every stone, every shard of metal became a weapon. Every wall became a shield. He moved like a shadow. Silent, patient, waiting. The hunters entered, their red eyes glowing. And one by one, they fell. Not by strength, but by fire, by traps, by will. The human did not fight to survive. He fought to reach her, deep in the throne chamber. The princess sat in chains, her wrists bound, her crown gone. Her people stood around her, the warrior leader holding his spear. "You have been saved," he said. But his eyes were cold. "You are free, princess. But the human will die, and with him, the curse will end." The princess shook her head, her silver eyes burning. "You are blind," she said. "He is not curse, he is the key. Without him, we are already dead." The warrior did not answer, but the fear in his eyes told her he knew she was right. Then the doors shook. A roar filled the chamber. The warriors turned, their spears ready. From the shadows fire burst. The human stepped into the hall. His body burned, his clothes torn. But his eyes were alive. Alive with fury, alive with purpose. The warriors gasped. How could one man break through the hunters? How could one man walk through death itself? The princess smiled through her chains. She whispered, "I told you. He would come." The warrior raised his spear. But before he could strike, the human threw the fire. The torches exploded. Shadows danced. Chaos filled the throne chamber. The human fought like a storm. Every scar, every pain, every memory of loss became his weapon. The warriors fell back, not from his strength, but from his will. He refused to break. He refused to stop. The princess cried out as the chains shattered. The human stood before her, his hands bleeding. But he smiled, only for a moment. "You are free," he said. The princess looked at him, her breath shaking. "No," she whispered. "We are free." The warriors fled. Fear in their hearts, the hunters shattered. Fire in their metal bones, the throne chamber burned. And in the middle of the ruins, the human and the princess stood together, side by side, savior and heir. She looked at him, her silver eyes soft. "You are not just a man," she said. "You are the hope of my world." The human shook his head, his voice low. "I am only what I choose to be." But deep inside, he knew the signal had not lied. Fate had not lied. The chamber walls trembled. The ruins hummed far away. The machines screamed louder. The war was not over. This was only the beginning. The princess lifted her wrist stone. Its glow strong once more. The human stood beside her, his eyes burning with fire. Together they faced the darkness. Together they faced the future, and the story of the savior began.